Can I say one thing? I went down to Arrowtown, flew down to Queenstown Tuesday night, came back Wednesday, and was in Christchurch last Friday. It's been busy. But I'll tell you the weirdest thing. When I walk through an airport now or get on a plane now, and this even happened going through security at Queenstown on Wednesday, the guy sort of wanding me down saying, because the machine always goes one at a time, please, when I walk through the metal detector. He said, you go after the BSA. And people are coming out to me and go, you get the BSA, admire what you're doing. It's like suddenly I'm famous. I've gone from like E-list celebrity to like C-list celebrity, all because of the BSA. I have been stunned by the number of New Zealanders who rightly recognise their freedom of speech as being challenged. And my inbox has been clogged with people who are taking a stand. I understand, I think the New Zealand Law Journal or the Association of Lawyers, I'll get details, it just came in this morning. They have written to the Minister calling for the abolition of the Broadcasting Standards Authority. I still have had no response to my substantive questions from Stacey Wood or the media officer, my mate Pete, at the Broadcasting Standards Authority. I've had no response to my official information at request for information. But as I pointed out on social media posts, and I think I said in the program on Friday, it was interesting to see Stacey Wood, the chief executive of the Broadcasting Standards Authority, taking part in a webinar last week on Wednesday, I think it was, organised by a government-funded charity, as far as I know, called the Tahono Trust. And one of the panellists, along with Paula Penfold and some other disability advocates, was a chap called Mohan Dutta. Now, Mohan Dutta is the Dean of Communications at Massey University. And Mohan Dutta was taking part in this panel with the BSA about how to uphold standards in New Zealand media and the New Zealand media-scape. So what sort of people, is the question, does the BSA hang out with? And who's advising it on what standards in New Zealand should be? Well, I would invite you now, and we're going to play the video for this as well. Josh has done some great work. We can now play video and audio inserts live into the program, or we hope we can. So this is, and he's at Massey University. If you've got kids, relations, or friends there, you might be interested in this. But I do warn you, parts of what you're about to hear are extremely racist. But because I'm not a broadcaster, I can do that. Are we set to go? Let's hear from Mohan Dutta.
Morena Koto. Today I wanted to talk about a concept that I have written about extensively, the concept of whiteness, the dominant values of white culture that are taken as universal, and the ways in which whiteness shapes media infrastructure. Now, one of the ideas that emerges from the work of whiteness is the notion of standards and the ways in which whiteness deploys, on one hand, standards in order to gatekeep, and on the other hand, continues to violate those very standards in order to uphold a broader infrastructure of power and control. So as an example, I will look at the right-wing media propaganda architecture of the platform and the figure Sean Plunket. As you would be familiar, many of you would be familiar, the platform has recently been approached by the Broadcasting Standard Authority, suggesting that it falls within broadcasting standards regulation because it might qualify as a broadcaster. Now, that question, whether the platform is a broadcaster or not, is an empirical question that needs to be tested. What I will here point to, though, is the way in which Mr. Plunket and the platform then react to this move by the Broadcasting Standard Authority, and in one particular thread, Mr. Plunket suggests that this is part of a broader conspiracy to censor particular kinds of views and suggests that this is an ideological project. In constructing this conspiracy theory, Mr. Plunket has to dig into his strategies of crafting what he calls journalism or investigative journalism, even through disinformation. Of course, like we have seen in other instances, he decides to target me as part of some infrastructure of censorship that is operating nefariously, suggesting that I have some kind of collaborative relationship with the Disinformation Project and now with the Broadcasting Standard Authority as part of some infrastructure that has been put up by the previous Labour government that is working to censor particular ideological viewpoints. Now, this kind of propaganda, which is rife with disinformation, is a perfect example of the ways in which whiteness works. So you see, one of the criteria for news, a fundamental criterion, is accuracy. Mr. Plunket, though, has absolutely no respect for this very concept of accuracy as he keeps churning out disinformation and continues repeating it, as if repeating the disinformation enough number of times will make the conspiracy work. This is anything but journalism. But the reason that it offers the facade of journalism and works in this infrastructure of media ecosystem in Aotearoa is precisely because of whiteness and the ways in which it upholds white mediocrity. So what can you do as consumers of news? Well, first and foremost, engage with fundamental ways in which you can ask questions about particular news frames, particular news stories, ask questions about accuracy, where are these frames coming from, but also ask questions about the funders. Who are funding these resources? Who are funding these networks? And what does the appearance of journalism do to uphold particular kinds of propaganda infrastructures? Name hinui.
So there you have it. There's a rave from Mohan Dutta. Mohan, I can answer your question. I'm not part of a vast right-wing conspiracy. Who funds the platform? The people listening right now. Our advertisers. We are a 100% Kiwi-owned business. I am the majority shareholder in that business. The story of how the platform works and what it believes in stops right there. We're guided by our audience. We're guided by response to what we do. We're up front. You can ring us any day. You can ring us and have a go and have a talk about what we do. What you don't say, and you don't say in your absolutely bizarre rave, Mohan Dutta, you don't say who funds the Centre for Cultural Centred Approach to Research. The government does. You don't say who funds you. The government does. You won't appear on this program and face scrutiny and answer the very simple questions that I've just asked. You won't tell me about your links with the Disinformation Project, your links with the Tahana Trust, whether or not it is linked to the Christchurch call, whether or not you've been linked to the Disinformation Project. So, look, of course, that is classic textbook Marxist stuff. It's cancel culture stuff, what he's done there. Oh, let's say Mr. Plunket, a journalist with 41 years' experience, never been successfully sued for defamation. One weird finding upheld against something he did in the Broadcasting Standards Authority, I think 14 years ago. Or no, it wasn't 14 years ago, 5 years ago. So I'll put my record up against yours, and I challenge you this morning to come on this program live and enter the debate. Because unlike cancel culture advocates and Marxists like you, Mohan Dutta, the platform, which is not a right-wing media propaganda organisation, the platform is about the real truth, asking pertinent questions that our audience are interested in, and inviting people like you to come and explain themselves in a public forum, which I know you will not have the guts to do. I'm sure you can get hold of Mohan Dutta if you want to share your thoughts with him at Massey University. And if I was sending my child or anyone I knew was considering studying communications, I'm not sure that Massey University would be my first choice. Sean, when you've clocked up some years and encountered various challenges, you may come to recognise there's a thing called evil, whether one sees it as a concept or an actual entity. This guy Dutta is evil, in my humble opinion.